Entering the Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to another edition of the HAQPARAST podcast. This for UFC Fight Night Newark. Colby Covington versus Robbie Lawler from the city that never sleeps. That's what they call Newark, right?
I thought that was like
That is New York.
New York.
That's the joke.
Oh,
Newark's the trash city where the Devils play.
Yeah. However,
across the river.
you gotta live there if you're working in New York because it's so much cheaper, and the drive is really not that bad. We're in Toronto. The drive's pretty bad. We understand bad drives. But yeah, the few times that I've been visiting, like Newark, a lot of people are just stabled there, and you make your commute to the city.
So last week we had a winner in the draw.
Excellent.
They gave their favorite. People got confused by the Canadian versus like active fighter versus active UFC fighter. I don't know whether
some prospects.
I don't know whether our boy Poppy Hoppy wrote well, I don't. As long as they rank GSP, you know what? I don't really even care. As long as they Poppy Hoppy, congratulations, you won $20 DK. If you want to get into a draw for $20 DK this week, Colby Covington's headlining the card. He's a pretty hated guy. I imagine he's going to be the chalk answer in this. So all you got to do is give the episode a like, share your DK handle, say who in the UFC you hate the most. Colby Covington's got to be the GOAT answer here. It's going to be the chalk, right?
I like
people.
Colby.
I love Colby
yeah,
too.
I don't know what to say.
There is a divide. There are people who like
Of
Colby.
course there's a divide.
There are people who dislike
More
Colby.
people who dislike Colby.
Way more people.
He's a heel. He's a classic heel character, though.
Yeah.
That's what the division needed.
Yeah. He's hilarious.
Yeah, well, hopefully, and I'm just hoping. The last guy who I was high up on, who was a fantastic wrestler and was hilarious, got KO'd in about 6 seconds with a flying knee. So I'm hoping that Colby Covington doesn't walk into a Robbie Lawler bomb and get floored. But could be a tough one.
100%. All right, let's move on to the main event, which is Colby Covington taking on Robbie Lawler. Colby Covington, 9,000 on DraftKings, 7,200 for Lawler, minus 225 Covington, plus 185 Robbie. I'm going to lay it on you guys pretty quick here. ATT absolutely crushing the game right now. Absolutely. Mike Brown, Conan Silveria, all of their team, absolutely murdering the game right now. Robbie Lawler spent a lot of his good years in MMA when he had the title and everything like that at the specific gym with these specific coaches. They've been, the outline for how to beat Robbie Lawler pretty much laid out in the RDA fight. Colby Covington is going to just reenact that exact matchup. This gym knows Robbie Lawler better than anybody else. Colby's their golden boy at ATT right now. I think Colby Covington by convincing 5-round decision. That's how I see this one shaking out. Like that's how I think it's about just as easy as that. I think those coaches, that's a massive X factor for me, especially considering how good they've been right now and the amount of information they have on the opponent for their golden boy. Colby Covington all day. What about you?
Right, here's another thing you got to take in consideration with Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler is a guy that's been fighting literally since the dawn of time. I think he made his debut 2001. He's had 18 years of pro experience in this sport. Funny story about Robbie Lawler at like UFC, here we go, 37. He fights Aaron Riley in the UFC. It's a Friday night. The next night, he takes his then girlfriend out to her senior prom. She's 18, he's 20 or something. It's like he's been fighting since he's a kid. And you got to remember those years in Strikeforce. You got to remember those years in Elite XC. You got to remember those years where he just looks completely done in. He's uninterested. The old Robbie Lawler that's knocking guys out is gone. And we're getting a new version of Robbie that, you know what, we're just not accustomed to. Then he makes that switch to American Top Team. That switch, Paul, was everything to Robbie Lawler. They completely built him back up, reinvigorated him, got his career back going, win him a championship, and then he bails on the gym after they win him a championship. And it's kind of been downhill since. Tyron Woodley knocks him out. He left them after that. And the one win that he has in that little stretch of time, Donald Cerrone, again, not convincing by no stretch. He's had some ups and downs. That fight with Rafael Dos Anjos, like you said, the blueprint is there, how to beat him. I don't think it's necessarily that Rafael Dos Anjos went out there and outclassed him in every aspect of it. It's that Robbie's knee gives out. And that's just a sign of 37-year-old Robbie Lawler, 18 years as a pro, over 40 professional fights, he's getting long in the tooth, whereas Colby Covington's all pace all the time on him. They used to be training partners. They used to be sparring partners. He helped him get ready for the Johnny Hendricks fight. And the Johnny Hendricks fight was a fight that Robbie Lawler gave up takedowns in. Robbie Lawler, everybody always talks about how great his takedown defense is and how, you know what, that's the great thing about him. He's a banger, he's a striker, he's got a great chin, but he can stuff the takedown against these wrestlers, keep it standing, and beat them up. But it's interesting to note that eventually he did get taken down by Ben Askren. He got taken down twice against Rafael Dos Anjos. He got taken down by Donald Cerrone. He got taken down 5 times by Hendricks the second time. He was taken down by Matt Brown. He was taken down by Jake Ellenberger. Taken down by Hendricks the first time. 4 times by Rory McDonald. 2 times against Josh Koscheck. He even got taken down against Lorenz Larkin back in the day. He does give up takedowns. And that's a big problem against Colby Covington, who is just going to chain wrestle him, shoot multiple takedowns. The one thing that I think we can dispute here, because you're on Covington, I'm on Covington, I think we get the win here, unless some crazy, again, Jorge Masvidal crazy situation where he knocks him out before the fight really gets started. I see Colby Covington getting the win. But you say convincing 5-round decision. And I don't know that if Robbie's not the Robbie that we remember, that maybe the pace gets to him over 25 minutes of that grueling. Like Rafael Dos Anjos.
Colby just doesn't finish a sandwich though, man. Like
that's fair.
He just doesn't.
Fair. Yeah, I get it. I'm just trying to contemplate.
And Robbie doesn't have to quit. I don't think he has quit in him. Like he's gonna continue to fight. That's why I think decision. If it was a late finish, would I be surprised? No.
Right. So now I know the fans are usually accustomed to getting pricing and all that up, but we'll make it clear here. We're short-handed to start this show. Paul's got to make the switches himself. Toner. Apparently Pat Mayo used all the toner out of the printer. You can tweet
We have the prices. I said all the prices.
Right, but
you just have to listen.
The 220 on Colby Covington, I'm feeling it. I'd like to get a better price if I thought by decision, and I should crush that decision. For whatever reason, gut feeling, I think I'm just going to take the 220 on Colby Covington. Yeah. The DraftKings pricing, again, we talk about these guys that have the capability of potentially smashing DraftKings pricing, and that's exactly what he is. He can just absolutely go off on a slate,
if he gets
multiple takedowns.
Because Robbie's got good takedown defense. If he can get, he can get like 8, 9, 10 takedowns in this freaking fight, man.
And you know he's going to attempt 20 takedowns in this. If he goes 50% on his takedowns, you know he's going to get a bunch of them. And on top of that, it's not that his significant strikes have any type of like meaningful impact. It's the fact that he seemingly just keeps throwing them. So the only other concern I have with Colby Covington, I think he's been off like 14 months. He had mentioned he had a couple health problems, but at 31, he's not shot porn. He should be, I would say prime of his career, peak physicality, and let's go get the win. So I'm interested in playing Covington, and that'll be the pick here.
We move on down the card. We have Jim Miller taking on Clay the Carpenter Guida. Jim Miller, 8,900 on DraftKings. Clay Guida can be had for 7,300. Jim Miller is a minus 165 favorite with the comeback on Guida plus 145. Who you got here, Cody?
You know what? I think I'm going to take a poke at the dog early on Clay Guida. Both guys actually match up pretty similar to each other. I know that Jim Miller with his black belt in the submission game, yes, he could definitely choke out Clay Guida and put him away. But I'm liking the pricing on Clay Guida. Guida's a tough guy. He's been around the UFC for a long time. Obviously a savvy enough veteran. But outside of him getting caught by world-class guys with the submissions, he's pretty solid. And I think with Jim Miller, they're both kind of in that similar situation where they're, okay, we're veteran lightweights with good wrestling, decent striking. It's going to come down to maybe pacing. And Clay Guida, that's where he's got the advantage. He's 37, Miller's 35, but Miller's just kind of had, massive amounts of wars in there. There's no doubt he's slowing down a little bit. I've noticed with Jim Miller is that he'll have a really good first round. And if he can get the submission on Clay Guida, and he might be able to, then he'll need to do it in the first round. But the longer it progresses, I feel like Clay will get to him. When you look at Clay's record, right, he loses to Brian Ortega, but he's looking good up until he gets knocked out by that knee in that third round. But then he dominates Eric Koch. He smashes Joe Lozon early in the first round, and then he gets caught by Charles Oliveira. But that's no big deal. Rebounds from that against BJ Penn. I'll admit, Paul, doesn't look great in the first round. He's getting touched up by BJ Penn. Like, that's not a great sign. But it's his pacing. It's the fact that he can just keep going on you. So with Jim Miller's been looking decent these days just because he's been fighting subpar competition. And if he gets them to the ground, he's got a nice little rear naked choke. Again, he is a BJJ black belt. If he gets you down, it could be trouble. But I think the ground game is going to be neutralized here, and that I don't think Jim Miller has got the wrestling at this point in his career to take down Clay Guida. And if he doesn't take down Clay Guida, this is going to be a boxing match for 3 rounds. A boxing match that Miller will have some success in, maybe win that first round. But pacing and volume should eventually go to Clay Guida. So I'm really interested because it was plus 150. It's 145 now, depending on what you're going to get it at. It's dog pricing. Both guys are pretty similar. It's kind of a dog or pass situation. So I'll get my first dog out of the way early and say Clay Guida would be my pick here.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just in terms of the pacing.
Miller's no slouch.
No. Like if he gets him up against the cage, like Guida's probably gonna try to do a lot of cage work. He definitely keeps a higher pace. It's super dicey. Miller
is not the same Miller from back in the day.
No.
Connor's a little bit.
Miller is the hometown boy though, but
they
have so many fights in New Jersey that like I don't know if home cooking is really a thing there.
Yeah, maybe not in a place like New Jersey.
Like New York, New Jersey.
I can see it in small places like Indiana. It's like we're gonna give it to the guy who's local to this area. But yeah, I feel you there.
Yeah, I think it's dog or pass. Probably more of a pass for me. Anyway, let's move on. We have Nasrat Haqparast taking on Joaquin Silva. Nasrat Haqparast, 9,100 on DraftKings. Joaquin Silva can be had for 7,100. And Nasrat is a minus 245 favorite, plus 205 for Silva. I think this line's kind of out of hand, to be perfectly honest. Like, why do we think that Joaquin Silva sucks? Like, he's coming off of a barn burner of a fight against Jared Gordon, where
he looked good, man.
He was eating shots, he was giving shots. Like, he's a very muscular, physical kind of guy. Like, I know Nasrat's been on a run. The betting community really seems to like this guy, but the price just seems way too wide here. I could definitely see Silva pulling off the upset. I see it being relatively close, really everywhere. I see some value on Silva. I may take a poke. Haven't done anything yet. What about you?
Yeah, for this one, I'll go with Nasrat. I think it'll come down to a good sound game plan. The thing with Joaquin Silva is he's got the skills. I mean, he is a banger. He's got good Muay Thai. He's got good BJJ. And he did really look good in that Jared Gordon fight. But he's losing that Jared Gordon fight up until the moment Gordon gets touched up. His chin's kind of been suspect as of late. And then he just abandons the game plan and goes into brawler mode. And again, brawler mode against Joaquin Silva did not work for him. But Nasrat's not like that. He's got better counterpunching. He's a longer ranger guy. Should be able to find the mark a little bit better. And coming out of that TriStar gym, even though I don't think they've been on a great roll recently, they're going to have a good sound game plan for how not to brawl with Joaquin Silva, which is what you not want to do. So Nasrat, I feel like he's going to have the size advantage. This is one that I want to wait till I see it on the scales because even though I should be a little more in on Nasrat, you're right. The pricing on it is a little bit out of hand. I'd want to get a little bit better. It's almost like they're overlooking Joaquin Silva, and I overlooked Joaquin Silva against Jared Gordon, who I was all in on. So don't want to make that mistake again, but I feel like Nasrat's going to get the win. I feel like Nasrat could potentially finish, but more likely going to get that decision victory. DraftKings not interested. If the price sits at where it's at, he's not a parlay piece because there is some risk there, but I'm going to play some shares of him anyways.
We got Trevin Giles taking on Gerald Meerschaert. Trevin Giles, 8,500 on DraftKings to Gerald Meerschaert, 7,700. The odds have these two guys set up at minus 170 and plus 150. Who you got, Cody?
Yeah, see, this is a difficult one for sure because with Trevin Giles, it's like the last fight. I don't know if that last fight's a great indicator of where this guy's actual skill set's at. I mean, the Zach Cummings fight, again, a lot of people were kind of high up on him coming in there, feeling that Zach Cummings is a little bit older, a little bit slower, and that Trevin Giles is either just going to counterpunch this guy or stay more active than him, outwork him a little bit. And it's the other way. He doesn't look good. His cardio totally lets up on him. He gasses fairly early into the fight, and it's just not a good look for him. He ends up getting choked out after he gets floored in the third round by Cummins. He ends up getting choked out by Cummins' guillotine late in the fight. Not a good look. But the thing that I'm taking consideration there is that he hadn't fought in the UFC in a while. Like, he fought Braganito December 2017 and then took a year and a half off before he came back against Zach Cummings. Now he's getting just a 3-month turnaround. So whereas a lot of people are contemplating, is 3-month turnaround good for this guy? Like, he just got dropped. He just got choked out. 3 months is not enough to fix your cardio issues. Maybe he should have taken a little bit longer. But I feel like he just needed to shake some of that ring rust off. He is a better counterpuncher. He's only 26 years old. There's no reason to think that he's going backwards in his career. I just feel like it wasn't his night against Cummings, and that if anything, it should be a good learning experience out of it. Gerald Meerschaert, he's a total wild card because like he's a decent grappler. He's got okay wrestling, but his fights are just all over the place. Like, I don't know if he's going to get knocked out in the first 2 minutes of this fight or if he's going to fight on, with a frantic pace and end up tiring Trevin Giles out and eventually get to him and break him. So I'm going to go with the younger faster, better counterpuncher here in Trevin Giles. But again, this is a card that I think a lot of experienced gamblers will look at and say there's not a lot of great spots that you like because there's a lot of inherent risk. So yes, I'm going to go with Giles here, but MEERSCHEERT, again, I called him the wild card for a reason because his fights are almost 50-50. Like, this is a guy that was taking down Thiago Santos until he got knocked out. But at his best, he can take down seemingly not anybody, but he can take down some of the better guys in the division. He can hang. At his worst, it's just like he looks completely lost out of there. His punches got absolutely no snap to them. His ring IQ suspect at times, and so is his gas tank. So I would totally avoid him at all costs. MEERSCHEERT's not a guy that I could ever play with any confidence. Whereas Giles, even though he's coming off a loss, maybe this is the time to recover some of that value and get it back. So I think we'll get a better version of him. Again, I go back to the fact that at 26, unless it's a confidence issue, coming back in 3 months should be better for him and just getting that competition time in.
The problem is Gerald MEERSCHEERT is a DraftKings superstar, Cody.
He gets the win, absolutely.
He got 70 points. He got robbed last fight.
He would have scored.
He would have scored 102 with that decision. He scored 72 in a loss. And that was against Kevin Holland, who gave up losses. There was a lot of disgusting, greasy type of
but that's what's not going to
scrambling and stuff here. I don't know. I don't want to. I'm not playing Trevin Giles on DraftKings. I'll tell you that much. I don't think I'm going to bet him either. I'm not going to bet MEERSCHEERT. I hate that it's full out kind of pass for me. But I may play MEERSCHEERT on DraftKings just because at the price that he's at and the way that he performs in draft, like 7,700. He almost beat that in a loss last fight out. Yeah. 72 points in a loss. When he wins, he scores over 100. He does really, really well. But Trevin Giles' power doesn't really worry me. He doesn't have much pop on those strikes.
Not big for the weight class. I think that's his problem, is that if he could somehow move down, because he's not ripped by no means. Like, it looks like he's fighting up a weight, but I think you're right there. The other thing that if you're going to be a MEERSCHEERT player, it's not the worst option
DraftKings
is that MEERSCHEERT is a finisher. His 4 wins in the UFC, all by finish. He's got three submissions and a body kick over Eric Spicely. So the guy's not completely lost out there by no stretch. $7,700 if you think that Giles is going to gas again and MEERSCHEERT can push a pace on him. And if MEERSCHEERT's going to win, historically speaking, he wins inside the distance. So I'm feeling you there.
All right, let's move on down the card. We have Scott Hot Sauce HOLTZMAN taking on not that Dong Young Kim, because he doesn't even go by that fucking name anymore.
Dong Young Ma.
What's up with
Maestro? That? Do you think everybody was eventually like, hey, dude, there's no sense in progressing like this? I would be like, yo,
since he dropped that name, he hasn't been progressing.
Yeah. If I'm his manager, I'm like, dude, I literally just got a spot with you making a nightclub appearance under the impression that they're getting UFC veteran Dong Young Kim. And they don't know it's you. We're playing off this. If you change it, we've lost all marketability. That Polo Reyes fight, that was pretty badass. What has really come of him since then?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
It was kind of just like a one-off magical moment on a magical card.
Anyway, HOLTZMAN is 9,300 on DraftKings to Ma's 6,900. HOLTZMAN is minus 440. Ma is plus 350. I can't have any faith in Dong Young Ma at this point, especially with HOLTZMAN, who's super, super strong for the division. I know he lost against Nick Lentz but that was just a bad stylistic matchup. The thing is, 9,300 on DraftKings. I just don't want to pay up for HOLTZMAN in this because you have to remember Dong Young Ma does have the judo background. Yeah. I imagine his hips, his style, at least early on, is going to be probably a little bit tougher to take down. I think HOLTZMAN just kind of beats him on the feet as it is. And maybe a lot of cage work, that type of thing until he wears him down. Then he starts to get the takedowns. But for 9,300, I need you getting those takedowns immediately and going for those takedowns immediately. I need you, Colby Covington, out there, going out there, getting those takedowns, securing those takedowns. HOLTZMAN, he doesn't come from he comes from a hockey background. He doesn't come from the same wrestling background and all of this. So it's for 9,300, I know HOLTZMAN does utilize this type of pressure wrestling strikers kind of game, but 9,300, it's just too much.
No, see, that $9,300 is completely reflective of the fact that he's just quite simply 4-1. Yep. This is not a guy that goes out there and scores big points. If he does get takedown, 2, maybe 3 in the fight, his significant strikes average 40, 50 in the fight. He's not a guy that's going to go out there and score big for you. At 35 years old, yeah, 100% late starter. He was a pro hockey player, or a semi-pro hockey player for the majority of his career. And then eventually he turns to MMA, has a decent little run. But seeing him lose to Nick Lentz, no shame in that. But that is just, it really shows that Holtzman has massive limitations. At 35, we found out where his hump is. When you look at the wins in the UFC, this guy's had an incredible run here. Tony Christodoulou, your old boy Anthony Christodoulou,
Yeah,
right?
Tony Puddings.
Which, by the way, it takes him like late in the third round to get the finish over him. Cody Pfister, Michael
Hardly knew her.
McBride, Daryl Horcher, which would be a good fight if this was the Jersey regional scene, which is a Jersey UFC event, not the regional scene. And Alan Patrick, which is his career win to date. But after that, it's like, okay, you got to beat a guy like Nick Lentz, who's also a little late in his career. Let's see what you can do. And he had no answer for Lentz. Lentz outstruck him. Lentz is out grapple him. What I'm worried about...
Did come on hard in round 3, though.
Did come hard on round 3 because every time he wanted to straight... It looked like he just wanted to bang. And Lentz was like, no dice, dude. I'm going to take you down at will. Dunyan Kim probably wants to bang too, but doesn't have the wrestling to decide, I want to take Holtzman down. So Holtzman should have his way. I think he wins this fight. The only one thing is the 400. Now, he took two and a half rounds to take out Christodoulou. But besides that, his win over Pfister, decision. His win over Michael McBride, decision. The fight with Horcher, decision. The win over Alan Patrick, late, but I don't know that I can rely on this guy to go out and get a finish or score multiple takedowns or just absolutely thrash a guy. I mean, the Alan Patrick fight is like the one outlier in what he's maybe capable of as a generality in his fights. So the 400 is way too steamed. And the DK pricing being completely reflective of that is also steamed. So I do think Holtzman wins. At 35, it's just too much for me. It's too much. I don't have any confidence in this guy moving forward. And at any point, it could be the wheels coming off for him. So I completely agree he gets the win, but I completely disagree with the way it's valued.
We got Darko Stosic taking on Kennedy NZECHUKWU. Stosic minus 135 on the betting line, and NZECHUKWU is plus 115, 8,400 and 7,800 respectively. What's your take here, Cody?
You know what? I'm going to go with my second dog here in Kennedy NZECHUKWU.
Whoa, going against the Croatian.
He's Serbian, so that happens. Croatians going against Serbians.
There's a long history of that.
And even though he's the protege of the great Miracle Krokop himself, he's not a kickboxer. He's a judo guy. That's kind of his base. Like, you want him to go out there and throw leg kicks because have you seen this guy's thighs, man? Like, his legs are fucking gigantic.
Looks like Pat Barry out there.
Holy shit, he's like a Greek pillar. That's how he's built. But you know what I mean? He doesn't have any type of pacing to him whatsoever. That Devin Clark fight was absolutely abysmal. Whereas with Kennedy NZECHUKWU, I'm going to argue that the loss to Paul Craig is the best, probably a good case scenario for him. Here's a guy who's a freak fucking athlete, Paul. He's 6'5", he's athletic, and he's so unbelievably green in his UFC career or in his MMA career in general because when you're that big of an athlete, you know, it's going to take you time to figure out your range and figure out your timing and figure out your own personal game. But at the same time, undefeated at 6-0 and smashing everybody they put in front of him, he's not building. He's not building properly. Doesn't get signed the first time off Dana White's Contender Series fight, but gets to the UFC. And then that Paul Craig fight, it really gives you the impression of how green he is. You know, I thought the first round was pretty close. You can argue Craig won it. The second round, I thought he won. He loses a point on an eye poke. Both rounds are close. And then in the third round, he's doing fine. He follows Craig to the ground where he shouldn't have, and he gets choked out. He was tired. He made a rookie mistake. All that stuff's bad for him. But man, when you're that athletic, you're young, and you're making improvements, Fortis MMA guy, I'm expecting improvements out of him. I'm expecting a better version of him to come out of this. Whereas when I look at Darko looked terrible against Devin Clark. Terrible. It was basically just try to wall install this guy as long as I can. Grappling was completely ineffective. His striking relied on just wild bombs. And here's the problem, is that he's 6 feet tall. And Devin Clark's tiny for the division. I think he's also 6 feet tall. So that don't matter. You can swing bombs on him. But Kennedy's 6'5". Now, Kennedy's 6'5" against Paul Craig 6'3". Again, it's two tall guys, whereas Darko's last fight against Devin is two short guys. But now we're getting tall guy against short guy. Tall guy that wants to stay on the outside and counterpunch versus Darko, who's super short and is going to wing punches. Am I worried that Darko gets him up against the cage, uses that judo background, hip tosses him to the ground, tires him out, stays heavy on top? Yes, possibly. But I'm getting dog money on Kennedy, so I'm willing to take a shot on there. And then last point I got to make on Darko is that fight with Devin Clark. I know I just argued in the last fight that the 3 months is not going to be bad for Trevin Giles. You know, he's going to shake off some of that ring rust. But in Darko's case, Darko just literally fought 2 months ago and looked abysmal. Cardio issues, striking issues, grappling issues all around. I know you could make an argument. Some people thought that he may have won the fight, didn't win the fight, looked awful. 2 months later, I don't know that he would have made those improvements. Where I'm expecting to see something out of Kennedy here. So another dog play, Kennedy. I don't love it on DK for the simple fact that I don't know that he finishes Darko. Darko seems like a pretty tough dude all around. But for the money line value, I would take a shot there.
I haven't really tracked the line movement on this one here. Let me just quickly. So he opened. It's been kind of around the same price as it is right now. So I'm like minus 135, plus 115. I imagine if you want to get in on Kennedy, do it before the weigh-ins. Because just when you see the stare down between them, like there's a massive size, length, reach advantage in general. Obviously, Stoisic is like built like a shit brick house, but like the other,
he's a short, stocky little tank. But I mean, like if we've learned anything in this day and age in the UFC, it's like these long, rangy guys. Kennedy's problem is that he just got caught by a late ass triangle choke in a fight that I kind of thought he was winning till that point. But making those mistakes as a young, undefeated athlete is going to be good for you. So getting him at dog money here, I don't know why Darko's the favorite. Like, he looked awful last time, and I'm not sure what they're looking at. And you knocked out Jeremy Kimball. Oh shit, looked pretty good there. Like, fuck off, man.
Jeremy Kimball was your boy.
Yes. But I think at this point, we all know the Jeremy Kimball experiment was done. He's a guy that's probably fighting 2 weight classes too heavy, and just never really got going to his expectations, or my expectations of him, I should say. But yeah, Darko not going there, so give me Kennedy.
We got Salim TOUAHRI taking on Mickey Gall. Salim TOUAHRI is minus 125 favorite. Comeback on Mickey Gall is plus 105, 8,300 TOUAHRI, 7,900 Gall. What you got here?
Yeah, okay, so this is like a raging debate right now amongst the Twitter MMA gambling community that just like, oh man, Gall, everybody was so high on him. Now they're not against him. Salim has not looked good in the UFC at all. And yet people are somehow backing him under the assumption that Gall is just that much worse. This fight is the biggest pass of all time.
I've seen people like making like really hard arguments. It's just like,
but I got to give a pick, and I think I would never bet Gall in a million years. No. And at the end of the show, when I wrap it up, I'm gonna have to give a pick, and that's gonna be tough here because like I don't bet Gall, but he's from New Jersey. He's in New Jersey. That's going to be at least something. He's taking the fight on a month's notice, too. You know what? Fuck, man. This is a stay-away fight. If you want to go Gall, here's the issue. He's taking the fight on a month's notice. His last fight against Diego Sanchez, he said that his kidneys shut down making weight and that he's too big for 170. But now he's going to make 170 on a month's notice? This other guy's been getting ready for Salim, he's been getting ready already. He's got a full camp under him. His fight with Warlley Alves. Warlley Alves is a good grappler. Black belt, better grappler than Mickey Gall. Couldn't really take him down. You know, his next fight, same thing. It's like he's outmatched. He's not fighting particularly great guys, but they can't take him down. Thiago Alves had no success, right?
Yeah, like Mickey Gall's grappling has only ever been effective against who? Sage Northcutt and CM fucking Punk.
So you got Sage Northcutt, right? Like a child star.
Who's a
right?
child.
He's like a child star. Then you've got Mike Jackson, who's a photographer, and
CM Punk, who's an actor, who's the best in the world,
who's an actor, who's a pro wrestler. So, but then, nobody ever talks about this. He choked out George Sullivan, and whereas that's not super impressive, don't get me wrong. Sullivan's a black belt. Another black belt at a BJ.
You know
he's
what?
under Kurt Pellegrino out of New Jersey.
Here's another guy, George Sullivan, that you have been talking so much love for over the years.
He won that fight.
He ain't done shit.
Okay.
George Sullivan never did shit at this level.
Fair. Here's my counter argument. Here's my counter argument for the whole Mickey Gall thing. Is that Gall got signed to the UFC and he should have never been there in the first place. Totally green, should not be here. But they think, hey, this is a fun little fight for CM Punk. So they give him a nothing fight. And after the Mike Jackson fight, he's still not UFC ready. And after the fight with CM Punk, he still wasn't UFC ready. And after the fight with Northcutt and George Sullivan and Randy Brown exposed him and Diego Sanchez really exposed him, you just know this guy is not UFC ready. But those 3 wins that we talk about were guys that were in the same boat. They shouldn't be here. And his losses to Randy Brown and Diego Sanchez. Diego Sanchez got 30 fucking fights in this organization, so he deserves to be here. And Randy Brown, wow, looks like a lot of people are wrong on him. He deserves to be here too. So you can't discredit Mickey Gall that much. He's fighting decent guys here. And he had some moments against Randy Brown, but he gassed out. And he had some moments early against Diego Sanchez on the feet until he gassed out. So you can see some skill there. You can see where he's a young guy, maybe 3-4 years down the road, if he was to fight for organizations like LFA or Bellator, like maybe he could progress to a UFC caliber guy. But right now, he's just not there. The issue is that he's taking a guy in Salim TOUAHRI who's just not there either. You know what I mean? Like, he's barely squeaking by in fights against mid-level guys to begin with, and where he does have some durability and does have some power in his shots, and he does have some decent takedown defense. There's just not enough volume out of him, Paul. He just doesn't quite do enough. So Gall, being the bigger man here, should be able to just stay on the outside, outstrike him long enough to hopefully get a hold of him, peel him to the ground, take his back, and choke him out. If it doesn't happen, then he's going to gas out and he's going to give it up. What this all culminates down to is you don't want no part of this shit.
Stay away
you want
from
no
this
part
fight.
of this shit. Just move on and stay away. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to enjoy this fight with a nice cool beer in my hand, but I'm not going to sweat this one out and be like, fuck, man, why did I do that? Or why did I back this guy publicly?
All right. Well, then you know what? We're going to move on.
Not even a dogger pass. This is a straight, it's pretty much an even fight anyway. So.
Yeah, we're going to move on.
If there was a fat dog, I'd bet him, but it's even, so fuck that. I'm out of here.
We're going to move on. We've got Antonina Shevchenko taking on Lucy Pudilova. 8,600 Shevchenko, 7,600 Pudilova. Shevchenko is minus 145 favorite. Pudilova is plus 125. I mean, we were right here saying that, Roxy. I actually bet her. I don't know if you ended up pulling the trigger on it.
You can't bet Roxy. Never have.
I know. I bet her. I bet her against Shevchenko as like a plus 300 underdog. It's all styles, though. It's all styles. And this style, I see a lot of people going and betting Pudilova. And the girl's got a lot of heart. Her striking technique is pretty good. But the stylistic matchup, like, think about Antonina getting ready for this fight. Okay, you got Lucy Pudilova. Oh, she's going to try to take you down? Probably not. Or she's going to maybe... She's going to probably try. Is she going to be effective in doing so? Probably not. Or if she is, it's not going to be as effective as Roxy, who is a veteran, who has been doing this for years and years and years. So, okay, we have a stand-up striking match. I've got Valentina, my sister, is the best striker in women's MMA. Like, you can just... I just think Pudilova. I just don't think Pudilova is going to be able to do much. I think Shevchenko wins. I don't think this is a good price or a good fight. Like 8,600 for Shevchenko.
No, they're both.
You need a lot of volume.
Yeah,
you need a lot of volume. She's not going to get any real takedowns or anything like that. If this closes closer to a pick'em, like if more money keeps piling in on Pudilova, maybe I'll fade the MMA betting community and throw a couple little shillings on Shevchenko. But 8,600, I'm not interested in getting involved in that, especially like a stand-up striking affair. And we haven't seen enough volume from her in any of her fights to really indicate that she's worth this type of price. What's your take?
Yeah. The problem with Pudilova is that it's like almost a tempting dog play and that I could get behind her, but she'd have to mix in takedowns at some point in her game. And this is a girl who has attempted effectively 0 takedowns in her UFC career. She's just really happy to stand there and strike with you. Now, she has volume. I know what you're saying. There's no volume. She has volume in the sense like it's like a Caitlin Chukagian volume. Shit's happening. But it's not like significant clean strikes landing all the time. So even if I was taking this as a dog play, it still doesn't look good at $7,600 on DK because, quite frankly, even if she does squeak out this win over Valentina, it's going to be low scored. Valentina doesn't allow you to hit her all that often. Imagine living with
Antonina.
Sorry, Antonina. But imagine Antonina living with Valentina Shevchenko. Your training sessions are involving don't get hit because you don't want to get hit. She's a good counterpuncher. Defensively, she's pretty savvy. She's the better striker. She should just go through the motions and win what will appear to be like a sparring match. It's going to be an actual fight, and win a decision. But Pudilova is young. She's younger than her. She's active. She seems to have an okay gas tank. She's willing. She's tough. If she comes out there and just grinds with her and gets her up against the cage and can make this a dirty fight and actually does attempt takedowns, then maybe she can shift it in her favor. But for where it stands right now, I would think that Shevchenko gets the decision victory and that it's not worth playing on DK for either side. Tempting again on the dog side, but with Pudilova, I can't put any faith in her going out there and executing a game plan that she has never even attempted or thought about. So for that reason, if it's going to be a striker versus striker matchup, then this is the UFC saying, okay, we understand that Antonita is not her sister. We understand that Antonita isn't at that level, but let's match her up. She's a Muay Thai. She's a 3-time Muay Thai champion. Let's match her up with somebody that's just going to stand there and throw down with her, and that's what they're getting here at least. So it's kind of playing in her favor. I don't love it for big favorite status by no stretch, and I definitely don't like it on DK, but the play would be Antonita Shevchenko.
We move on down the card. We have Jordan Espinosa taking on Matt Danger Schnell. Jordan Espinosa, 8,200. Schnell is 88,000. Espinosa minus 125. Schnell plus 105. Who you got?
Yeah, this is the one I've been kind of going back and forth with. I mean, ultimately, you probably should pass, but on an actual breaking it down anyways, Jordan Espinosa, his thing is, he's got all the skills in the world, man. He's a guy that out with Latrell, he's out with Greg Jackson. He's out of a great camp. He's only 29 years old. He's a decent prospect. He's a former state wrestling champion. He's extremely fast, Paul. He's got a decent submission game. He's only got 2 official knockout wins on his record. However, he's got some pop, A lot of the times he's dropping these guys, like the fight with on Contender Series against Nick Urso, drops this guy with a head kick and then hits him with the Darce choke. Like, there's definitely some power there. The issue is that he kind of seems to just be so unbelievably athletic that he gasses himself out quick. There's just like so much movement, so much that goes into the takedown attempts, so much that go into just like hopping in and out of the pocket with these big one shot offerings at a time. Kind of gasses him out, kind of takes its toll on him, so to speak, as time goes on. And when you see these fights, like once that first 3-4 minutes is out of there, the wheels has come off for this guy. But again, only 29, not of a great gym. If he figures it out mentally, if he figures out just how to conserve himself, he'd be a lot better. So when he comes to the UFC and he's taking on Eric Sheldon, I don't think a whole lot of people are backing him just because Sheldon, for as awful as he's been in the UFC, it looked like there was something there. People were betting him, I had a little bit of confidence in him in that spot. But for the first time, Jordan Espinosa didn't gas himself out. He kind of paced himself decently. He was way faster, he had a better wrestling game, and he was able to touch him up and ultimately take the decision. So if that's an indication of where he's headed, then he's going to be a lot better than maybe I'm giving him credit for. But Schnell, not a better wrestler, but he's a better grappler. He's got better jiu-jitsu. As far as the stand-up goes, people have been worried about Schnell's chin because of those consecutive knockout losses early in his UFC career. But since that, you're seeing a guy that's developing. He's another guy that's out of American Top Team. As you mentioned, the team's on a roll. He's on a personal roll, 3-0, and his last win's a first-round submission with a triangle choke over Louis Smolka. So if, for whatever reason, this fight does hit the ground, and I am giving the wrestling advantage to Espinosa, if Espinosa chooses to take it to the ground, I think I got Schnell here. They both got 7 submission wins versus 2 TKOs, but I'm going to give it to Schnell. As far as the stand-up goes, fuck, dude, Espinosa is going to be a lot faster. But I think Schnell can break him down. I think he'll have a great game plan. He'll come in great shape. He'll be able to tire this guy down. And if I'm a fighter and I'm getting ready for a guy that's unbelievably athletic, that moves like the wind, ATT is a great place to be, man, because there's just a lot of people that are in that same boat. So I feel like this is going to be a war of attrition, and as long as Schnell doesn't get clipped early, he should be able to drag him in some deep waters and drown him there. So give me Matt Schnell. Again, I'm going back and forth on it, but Schnell's going to be the official play, and I don't love it again. It probably should be a pass, but we're going to go with my MTV boy, MTV caged, Matt Danger Schnell.
We've got Mara Romero Borella taking on Lauren Murphy, 8,700 Borella, 7,500 Murphy, minus 200 and plus 170 respectively. First off, I have neither one of these fighters really interests me from a DraftKings perspective. The only thing that you'd be like, maybe Borella gets fight to the ground, finds a submission. Like that's the only way that one of these two really pays off. Otherwise, if you have a women's flyweight striking affair between the two of these Ladies, nobody's scoring big. Minus 200 Borella. No, thank you. Honestly, this is just straight. This card falls off of a cliff right around this point. The early prelims of this are pretty trashy.
It's not the world's greatest card.
This is pretty bad, man. I have no interest in either one of these girls. I have no interest in this fight, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, well, this is another fight that could absolutely go either way. I don't think you could have very much confidence in either lady. Lauren Murphy looked good at 135 in the sense that she's fighting the best in the world and she's giving them a competitive go, but it never worked out for her. Dropping down to 125, it's like, oh man, she's going to be a contender, but she looked out of sorts of it on The Ultimate Fighter, and so far her run in the UFC at 125, just, not that great. She got into MMA late. She's got a really interesting and neat story behind her, a perennial underdog, someone that you root for. But you got to imagine at this point in her life, she's got a lot of mileage behind her. And she kind of just fights like a reckless bulldozer that, training is the same way. Like it gets to you as time goes on. This is a sport where that younger athlete's going to come up and clip you eventually. And you almost worry, is Lauren Murphy at her best days? But Borella is not too far off, man. At 32 years old, I think everybody jumped in on the fact that, oh man, that win over Faria in her debut looks pretty good. She's got some decent grappling chops. She's another fighter out of American Top Team. Let's get behind her. But I'm not sold whatsoever. I mean, looking back on the footage of her, starting off with, she beats Miliana Dudieva and Invicta in the main event. It's a split decision. The fight's not super spirited, but at the same time, she's able to take down
T-Rex arms.
Yeah. Then she takes on Faria. She gets a real easy takedown in the first round and then immediately takes it back, gets the choke in, gets the win. Now there's some hype around her. The Caitlin Chukagian fight, very interesting to note that Borella actually, on paper, outstrikes Caitlin Chukagian. She outstrikes her in the numbers, probably is up 2 rounds, maybe loses the third. She probably should have won that fight, but no. Caitlin Chukagian makes a lot of noise when she's fighting, and it just gives you the impression. It gives you the impression you're getting motherfucking outworked when it's like none of this shit is landing. The impression is you're getting outworked. So she loses that fight, and then the Taylor Santos fight. Santos is 15-0. I don't think she's a great prospect. She's like 15-0. And Borella, this is the issue here: is that Santos is able to control her pretty easy up against the cage, right? They exchange takedowns in the first round, and then Santos making her debut, 15-0. She's never fought anybody decent. It's like that big adrenaline dump, that experiencing new things in the octagon. It got to her. She tires out. Borella ends up taking a split decision over. Should have been unanimous, but all the same, takes a split decision over her. Lauren Murphy don't slow down. She don't get tired, and she don't mind holding you up against the cage and battering you. And she's got a lot more work rate and volume stand-up. So even though Borella's a little sharper, kind of everywhere, she's going to get outworked, I get the impression of. So I would like to tell you, the smart decision is pass on this fight. But I'm going to take Lauren Murphy. I think she outworks her for decision.
We got Claudio Silva taking on Cole Williams. Claudio Silva is 9,400 on DraftKings. Williams is 6,800, minus 440, plus 350, respectively. Silva, obviously the most expensive guy on the card. Is Cole Williams any good? I haven't done tape on him yet. What about you?
Yeah, so I'm going to play Cole Williams. He's a massive underdog, and I understand why he's an underdog, but this is a great price.
You hate Claudio Silva.
I hate Claudio Silva.
You really hate him. For the people watching, Cody has been against Claudio Silva like every fight.
I know, but we have a very unique situation here, Paul.
Okay.
We were going to fade him against Ramazan Emeev. Duh. But Emeev pulls out.
Yeah, that would have been
And it wouldn't have been a great fade in the sense that Emeev was probably going to be like a 2.5, 3-1 favorite. I mean, his wrestling checks out.
At least 200.
At least 200. It's not really a fade. We're betting a 2-1 favorite. Whereas now we're presented with an opportunity to get a big fat dog. Cole Williams coming in as a 3-1 underdog. He's on a week's notice and he's 35 years old. He's making his UFC debut, but he's not that bad. He's got the skills to win this fight. So Cole Williams, when you look at, say, just his Tapology or his Sherdog, whatever, you're missing the biggest part about his career. Was his time on Bellator's Fight Master reality show, whereas that's you get the biggest indication. As far as his record goes, it's just a bunch of schlubs on the regional scene in Iowa outside of his win over maybe John Poppy, who missed weight and he knocked out in the first round. But it's that Fight Master reality show, right? So he's on episode 2. He gets shit going. He beats, I'm just bringing it up here, He beats Joe Williams, right? He beats Joe Williams in a 3-round. It's 1-1 goal, so they force like an overtime round. 3rd round, Joe Williams used to be an All-American wrestler out of Michigan State. The guy's a good fighter. Cole Williams beats Joe Williams, tires him out, superior striking, takedown defense looks pretty good, and he gets through. So now the show is you get to pick what team you want to be on if you get into the show. He just won. He gets into the show. You can pick Joe Warren's team, Frank Shamrock's team, Greg Jackson's team, or Randy Couture's team. He picks Randy Couture's team. Then in the 2nd round of the show, Cole Williams takes on Mike Dubois, takes him down, chokes him out in the 1st round. 3rd round of the show, he takes on Nick Barnes, LFA veteran, knocks him out in the 1st round. This is the interesting thing here, right, Paul? All of the fighters that were on Bellator's Fight Master reality show, they got ranked, right? As like a seeded fighters coming into the tournament. Joe Riggs was the number 1 seeded guy in that tournament. Nobody had any business fighting against Joe Riggs. He was obviously the best guy in the tournament. I'm not just saying that because I'm a Riggs fanboy. He's the fucking best guy in the tournament. He's the number 1 seeded guy. Cole Smith's the number 5 seeded guy out of everybody in the tournament. So once they get down to the semifinal matchups, there's only 4 guys left. The coaches reseed them. You got Randy Couture, Greg Jackson, Frank Shamrock, and Joe Warren reevaluate the 4 guys remaining. And they reseed Cole Williams above Joe Riggs as the number 1 seed. And then Cole Williams calls out Joe Riggs, fights him, loses a split decision. Really close fight. And his career has never rebounded since. So like 6 months ago, Joe Riggs is fighting for fight nights out in Alberta. They need an opponent for him. So they give me a call. They're like, can you find an opponent for Joe Riggs? So I call Cole Williams and I say, would you be interested in rematching Joe Riggs? Only Riggs fights at 185 now. Williams, I offered him the fight at 185 and he's like, I way prefer to fight 170. I haven't moved on to 185. Even though the fight with Poppy is listed at 185, he made 170. Poppy missed weight, so the commission just listed it as a middleweight fight. But he's a 170-pound fighter. All the same, he says, I'll fight Joe Riggs. I'll fight Joe Riggs at 185 pounds, but I want 10 grand. And I felt really bad to say it, but like, Cole Williams wasn't worth 10 grand to some promotion out in Alberta. Like, this is the regional scene. As much as I would love to pay this guy the world, like, no promotion is ever going to get $10,000 worth of Joe. They shouldn't have even bringing out Joe Riggs out there in the first place. Like, how many tickets is he going to sell? But all the same, he's a fan favorite, so you bring him out. You need an opponent. Maybe bring Cole Williams out. Cole Williams declines it, says it's short notice, doesn't want to take it. And now to see him in the UFC, it's like, it's a cool moment because he's 35 years old. He's had a long career. Like, he's listed at 11-1, but you give him back those 5 fights that he had on Fight Master. Like, he's got 20 pro fights. He's 35. He's never had a big opportunity outside of that show. Bellator never brought him back. They booked him once. Fight fell through. Never brought him back. No major organization ever gave him a shot. And now he is taking on Claudio Silva. So that's the fun, cool story of him. But how does he physically match up in this fight? Paul, he's a decent wrestler. He can keep the fight standing. Beyond that, he's got good cardio. And beyond that, the guy can fucking bang. He's got some serious power. Claudio Silva is unbelievably one-dimensional. You watch his wins in the UFC, and every time you could actually make a legitimate argument that it's lucky. He's lucky that he caught that kick against Nordine Taleb because he was getting straight beat up. He's lucky that Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts has 0 ring IQ because he was on his way to losing. He has no cardio. All of his punches are extremely telegraphed from the outside. All he has is a bull rush, bulldozer, low single leg, and if he happens to get on top of you, you're in trouble. But he was on top of Danny Roberts, and he couldn't submit Danny Roberts, so what's he going to do? Submit Cole Williams? Cole Williams hasn't been submitted in 10 fucking years, Paul. So this is a big dog play in the sense that nobody's got any good footage on Williams. Nobody's playing Williams. They're all just assuming that, he's 10 days notice. I can't find anything on him. He's probably no good. You said it your best. You said it yourself. Styles make fights here. And this is a style that actually favors Cole Williams. And so my very last thing on it.
Well, I didn't say Styles make fights
in this
with
fight,
regards to this fight.
No. Well, my last point on it is going back to Cole Williams versus Joe Williams. Is that Joe Williams was a Michigan State Spartan. He's an athletic guy. He had a great takedown game. And when you go back to that, you realize Cole Williams can wrestle. Now, 6 years later, is he still at that level? Maybe not. But I'm willing to take a poke because the odds are so big. And when Cole Williams fought Joe Williams, not even making this up, special guest referee, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers first-round draft pick, and current running back coach for the Auburn Tigers, Cadillac Williams. So that was a night you had 3 Williams in the same cage. And you know who won? Cole. So I'm playing him here over Silva. Believe you me.
Cole Williams would be the guy you'd be probably happiest to see in a back alley, though.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, and finally, we've got Hannah Goldie versus Miranda Granger. It says that this is listed, at least on Tapology, as being on the main card. I was just going off of the Bet365 page.
We're way all over the place in terms of
what I followed the DraftKings,
but
what they had
they're
is
all over the place.
Honestly, man, like this fucking fight is on the main card. Hannah Goldie versus Miranda Granger.
It wasn't supposed to.
This is why people
listed as a prelim, and then like 2 days ago or something they switched it. Like it made no sense.
This is why people are losing interest in some of this product. To be perfectly honest, is this shit right here.
I hear you.
Hannah Goldie was on the Contender Series. She's 8,800 and a -155 favor. Miranda Granger is 7,400 and plus 135. You look through Miranda Granger's experience, lots of first round finishes. Some names I recognize, like Gaming Montenegro, like some of like the jobbers from like Invicta and that type of stuff. So it's like she's doing what she's got to do in those spots. Goldie's super athletic. Used to be married to Alex Nicholson. That all fell out. Oh, I wonder what happened.
7-Eleven.
He seems like a
Winter Springs, Florida.
He seems like a really stable individual. I don't have a real take on this fight either yet, to be perfectly honest. It's low-level women's. I wasn't impressed by Goldie. I didn't think that she deserved a contract they gave her because she's a blonde-haired girl in a division that they need more fighters. That's literally what happened on Dana White Contender Series. She didn't have a good performance.
She is a fitness model.
I wanna bet the underdog here, but I obviously have to do a little bit more tape. What's your take here?
Yeah, there'll be a time to fade Goldie, but like this ain't it. Like what she brings to the table works for what she's dealing with. Like this level and this division, being extremely strong and athletic. And she's an amateur. She's got an amateur boxing pedigree. And that's kind of the thing on Hannah Goldie here is that she was supposed to be a decent boxer coming up. Like she's got good hands. She's very functional. And then I guess kind of shit in her personal life gets in the way. She turns to MMA. She beats Jillian Robertson. That's her debut, is a win over Jillian Robertson, which in hindsight is fucking huge. But then she has a kid like immediately after, not immediately after, you know what I mean? Like she now didn't fight for 2 years after that Jillian Robertson fight because she had a child. Then shit goes south with Alex Nicholson. He's Alex the Spartan Nicholson. She's Hannah the Queen of Sparta Goldie. Shit goes south. She comes back to MMA, and then honestly, man, like you look at any of the pictures of her, she is a fitness model. She's unbelievably jacked. She's in incredible shape. She reminds me, not that her skill or her style is the same, but Justine Kish. Justine Kish is extremely limited, but when she was fighting other limited fighters, she can get away with no technique, all strength, because they didn't have enough to close that gap. It's when Justine Kish started fighting better fighters, better grapplers, that they were able to expose something in her game. When I looked at her versus Callie Robbins on Dana White's Contender Series, Callie Robbins is a decent grappler as well. Problem was that she wasn't nearly strong enough to get Goldie to the ground, which allowed Goldie to keep the fight standing and outbox her. That's all she needs to do. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen here too. I feel like Miranda Granger is going to have trouble getting the fight to the ground. Therefore, she has to stand. Have you watched any of the tape on Miranda Granger standing? Not good. So if she gets forced into that fight, it's going to be Hannah Goldie all day. So I'm going to take Goldie here. Probably a decision because I don't think she's got potent finishing power by no stretch. But Hannah Goldie by decision.
You want to talk about the Greek?
Oh, yeah, that was her last fight. I was like, that's a main card fight, Paul. But you're right.
Yeah, no, the DraftKings has it. The DraftKings follows the best fight odds page, and that's kind of the rundown. Because we ran out of toner, wasn't able to print out my regular sheet and stuff like that.
Embarrassing.
And so I've just been running off of a laptop. I've got a keyboard in front of me, a phone. I've got this. I've got that.
No, I feel for you,
it's
man.
a busy one, but
we do a card every week, and every week it's like something goes south for you in terms of either something on my scheduling issue or the computer or the toner or the. If you saw your setup here right now, it's like you're basically like
it's not a one man job.
You're like Captain.
It's getting kind of crazy.
You're like Captain Kirk at the helm of a goddamn spaceship here. Dude. Look at you. You're like, boop, 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 boop.
We need another.
Paul.
We definitely need another Chad. It's tough. It's tough doing it. But anyway.
Well, apply in the comment section below if you live near the Toronto area and want to come switch the show. Director Chad, we called him producer Chad, but realistically, you're just directing it. Camera switches. Let us know. I'm just going to run through it real quick according to the Tapology rundown, just to put people on the same page. But yeah,
well, there is going to be description. There's a list of where we talk about every single fight with their last names and time codes.
Yeah,
so
I know. I'm just going to do my regular rundown, like end of the show rundown.
Sure.
Colby Covington, 225 in. Clay Guida, he's the dog at 145 in. Nazarat's only 245 right now. I don't love it. It's getting a little out of hand, but I see money's coming in Joaquim Silva, so I'll wait it out and I'll bet Nazarat. Trevin Giles versus Gerald Meerschaert. Like, man, Trevin Giles did not look good last time out. However, I feel like he's going to be able to make the turnaround here, get the win. 170 is not a bad price. Money's coming in on him, so get it now because anything more than this, you don't want no part. HOLTZMAN, fuck, I'd love to bet him, dude, but 440, it's not even getting anywhere. This guy might go off at like 5.5 to 1. That I'm completely not interested in, but he is the pick. Kennedy's the dog right now. Like Paul said, he might not be the dog for much longer, so see what you can get. Plus 115 as the time being. I would take Kennedy. Mickey Gall versus Salim, like the official pick, I guess, is I'm just going to label it as dog or pass. Plus 105, I guess that forces my hand. I'm not even going to say the name because I hate saying that's who I would bet, but I'm personally just going to pass on this one. Then I'll go Shevchenko, greasy decision, closer than it should be, but she should be able to win it on her feet. Matt Schnell, that's a minus 105, minus 115, no dog there, but you know, it's close. Lauren Murphy's another juicy dog, minus or plus 170, you know? I don't like her on DK because this is going to be an awful fight to watch. There could be a lot of cage control. There could be a lot of just nothingness, poor technique, but she'll out hustle her. And for 170, I'm digging that. Cole Williams plus 350 in. And you know what? Money's still rolling in on Claudio Silva. So hopefully it continues to be that way and you get even better than Cole Williams so you don't feel about throwing a little nickel that way. And then Hannah Goldie minus 155. Try to improve those odds by taking her by decision.
That's the Croat, ladies and gentlemen. You should be taking the Greek's job.
There's
At least you wouldn't be saying that, I'm part of some big syndicate. I bet on Neal versus Price inside the distance at even money. It's just like, dude, that was an offshore book accepting $250 maxes.
Yeah.
You go on TV with that? You're not even fooling the casuals at this point. Like, even the casuals are in on it, knowing that this guy's completely full of shit. Like,
it's turned into a meme.
It's hilarious. I think it's really, really funny. It doesn't really trigger me. Like, I wouldn't want his job anyway. I wouldn't want that position. But it's just like somebody who has some sort of knowledge has gotta like speak to this guy and be like, this isn't looking good for you, bro.
Yeah, but that's
like the internet's all over him.
Yeah, I know. He's turned into
and
a meme
he just
he
hides after he loses, and I don't know. He's making all of the wrong moves in the gambling community.
Yeah. I think if somebody just tuned into Dana White's Contender Series and just happened to be watching fights randomly and they saw this guy give his opinion, they wouldn't even bat an eye. The thing is, who the fuck's watching Dana White's Contender Series unless you have money riding on it?
It's hardcore. It's only hardcore.
It's a card completely based around gambling. If you couldn't gamble on that shit, you wouldn't watch it unless it was your cousin that was fighting for UFC.
Because what's the difference between that and any other regional MMA promotion?
It's worse. PFL has legitimate talent. This does not have legitimate talent. I meant like, awful.
What's the difference between this and a CES MMA card? Really nothing.
Nothing at all.
There's literally nothing. The only difference is there's betting odds.
No.
That's literally the only difference.
In fact, there's guys that appear on those cards that are from CES MMA and are not even champion quality guys. Like, they're not even the champions over in these organizations. Now, mind you, I know I just said the talent's awful. I retract that statement. The talent's just green. It's just guys that you shouldn't be fighting in the UFC. And if you go and you smash some guy in Contender Series and it's a fun fight and he shouldn't have been there either, you get a contract. And then what happens? Do they sign a bunch of guys that are also green and shouldn't be there for you to fight? Like, it waters down the product. And then I can see the look in your eyes, Paul. You're almost starting to feel defeated, and it's the volume of cards. And you're not the only one. I feel like there's a lot of people feeling the same way. You stop caring as much because it's 12 fight card, 13 fight card, 12 fight card, 12 fight card, a Contender Series, a PFL, a Bellator, and the PFL.
It's hard keeping up with the rosters of all this these days, man.
And to be honest, if you told me I could watch a card like this,
I also have to follow golf and football and all of these other sports every single day, and it's there's just not enough room up here to keep all of it like it was back in the day for me.
Yeah, of course.
So,
and also nowadays you want to chase the carrot, which is a big matchup. You want to be able to say, hey, I'm going to go after that big matchup and watch that big matchup. But if you put up this card, which is a great main event, don't get me wrong.
Like
if you put the quality of this up versus a Jason Knight bare knuckle boxing event, like, People are going to watch that because that's easy to consume. It's 1 or 2 fights you're interested in. So you tune in and you watch 1 or 2 fights. This is full cards week in and week out. Like, to do proper research on a card, it could take you 10 days. You think you got 10 days in between these cards to do your research? No, motherfucker, you got 2-3 days at most. Like, you come out of it on Sunday. That's your rest day.
I don't even have that type of time
Monday you might be able to
days.
research. Tuesday you research. Wednesday you've got to do the show. You've got Tuesday's research. Like, it's a rush job. It's a rush job, which is why a lot of the time. But my passes are passes. I could watch 1 million hours of tape on it. Like, those are straight up. You shouldn't bet on this. Nobody's got an edge on this unless they know one guy broke his ankle or some shit. But for the most part, I mean, that's what it is. The Greek doesn't have an edge. He's just going on Twitter and being like, oh, okay, yeah, seems like everybody's on this. I'm fucking on this. But it's like, man, you can't explain yourself. Nobody's interested in this shit. But 100% somebody was like, Dana, you know your Contender Series thing? It's a gambling product. Everybody's gambling on it. Why do you think they have odds out like 2 days before PFL can get odds out? It's ridiculous. It's a gambling product. Let's have a gambling guy come on. Dana was probably like, who do you got in mind? And I bet you it was one of those, I got a buddy situations. It's like, there's no way this guy with any merit got himself. If it was, I don't know. I hear he does a lot of other sports. I hear he's good at other sports. I can only judge him on what he's done in this specific role. But I can name you 6 guys on my Twitter account right now that would do a fucking way better job than this guy. No joke. Kyle Marley or Brett Apley or, you know, Daniel Levy. Like, all those guys could take this guy's job. Yeah, but I'm not one of those guys. Like, I don't want to toot my own horn. I'm living the life I want to live. And it doesn't mean nothing to me to fly to Vegas every weekend and do that shit. But all those guys, you know, they could do as good of a job as I could. Or whatever. I'll let the audience be the judge of that. But those guys could do that motherfucker's job. No problem. So that's or you know what I mean? But your fucking plate is so full.
I don't want to do it.
So full.
I don't want to do it, to be perfectly honest.
What would you rather do? Tee up 5 minutes of picks or do a fucking hour-and-a-half show every single week? Be honest. You'd rather tee up 5 or 10 minutes of hot picks. That'd be the life, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
You got all week to prepare. And it's not even every week. This shit's every week. That shit's every 2 weeks, you know? Like,
yeah, fair enough.
Anyways, that's my final thoughts.
All I'm saying is, cash the Croat, trash the Greek. That's what I'm saying. Those are my final thoughts on this.
Well, how about we take that tag I made back in the day? I won't say who I made it for, but we'll say Greek is a mush, and then we're going to go hashtag crush the mush.
Crush the mush. I like it. I like it a lot. All right, thank you, Cody Saftic, breaking down the fights with me as always. For Cody, I am Paul, saying goodbye and good luck.
MMA experience! Experience!